Hello, everybody. A warm welcome back to the stage one, day one of API Days, Dubai and Middle East. In the stage one, we will now have the segment on Embedded Open, the future of finance. The first session on this panel, on this segment, will be a panel discussion hosted by Helen Child, founder at Open Banking Excellence. The topic of the panel will be Embedded and Open Finance. Hi, welcome, Helen.
Hello, welcome, and thank you for inviting me. I'm excited. I'm looking forward to this panel discussion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Hello and good afternoon. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Helen, as Panath said, and I'm the founder of Open Banking Excellence. That's a global community made up of fintechs, banks, big techs, regulators, and policymakers around the world. So I am particularly excited to welcome on to the stage our panelists and have a discussion around open finance in the Middle East. So whilst they're coming on the stage, I will just tell you that I've recently been out in Saudi Arabia, and I have to say I had an absolutely amazing welcome. They were hugely hospitable, and I was part of the team talking with Saudi Payments and part of that implementation team on open banking there. So I'm sure we will touch on what's happening in Saudi as well as the other countries in the Middle East. Okay, we are one panelist short at the moment, had a few IT issues, so we're going to crack straight on, and I'm going to ask the panelists to introduce themselves. Mohammed, please say hello to our audience and let them know where you're from geographically and your company, please.
Hi, everyone. I'm very glad to be here today. I'm here in Dubai, and I work in financial services for around 20 years, and now Fintech Bazaar. I have a Fintech Bazaar, which is a startup, like a startup community in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you. Serena, you made it. Congratulations. Must have given you a bit of a flutter with the technology issues. Please say hello to everybody and where you're from.
Thanks, Alan. Hello, everybody. Sorry, I had an electricity issue, actually. Glad to be part of Open Finance panel today. I'm Serena Sebastiani, Director in PwC Middle East. I look after financial sector innovation in the Middle East, so everything that is about fintech, open finance, and virtual assets, and dialing from Dubai.
Beautiful country. I've spent many fabulous months working there.
So from Dubai.
Are you from Dubai as well? Okay,
yeah,
so
Dubai now we have a diagonal.
Okay. Fabulous memories from Dubai. So please, tell us, where are you from, and please say hello.
So hi everyone, really glad to be here, and I think hopefully it would be very exciting next 50 minutes or so. So I'm from Spire Technologies. We are an open banking company in the region, within the GCC region. We are basically, I'm based out of Riyadh right now, as we speak. So Helen, somewhere where you've been, and I think you quite enjoyed it, your trip over here. So I'm just kind of enjoying the same kind of hospitality over here at the moment right now. So I think from Spire perspective, we do anything and everything to do with banking, from open banking kind of solution and services. So I think I just stop it there.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to hearing more about what you're doing in Riyadh. In fact, I'm curious. So let's start there, okay? Because this is a conversation. What are you doing in Riyadh? Come on.
So I'm talking to few very high energy kind of a potential, clients, I would say. They really want to step into or dip their toes into what's happening in the world of open banking right now at the moment. So just had some very fruitful conversations yesterday, a couple of them. And again, some very exciting stuff coming up, and also at the same time meeting a couple of partners there as well. I just came back from one really exciting kind of a conversation. So as you know, Riyadh is buzzing these days. A lot of stuff is happening over here. Open banking is becoming one of the key kind of topics of conversation. So I think it's kind of quite an exciting time to be here.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I've just said that open banking is actually
right.
We've got some of the OBE consultants are part of the team building the APIs out there, led by Accenture. It really is an exciting time. And what I will say, mainly for our European audience, is that my trip to Saudi dispelled a lot of the myths around Saudi. As a single female traveling on her own, I was made to feel very welcome. I always felt very safe. And I absolutely tell you, I can't wait to go back. So, talking about females, let me pass the mic to Serena. I want to start this conversation by having an overview of open finance in the Middle East. Okay, let's look at what all the countries are doing from a PwC perspective. You'll have that global overview, but let's just focus on the Middle East for a moment. Yeah.
Well, Ellen, the Middle East is a region that is focusing effort to diversify its financial sector in general, no? So certainly open banking, open finance is an opportunity to leverage. There is a recent survey that we did for central banks, and central banks from 18 Arab countries, 95% of them said they view the national open banking framework as critical for the development of the finance industry. So this is already a big statement. What is driving adoption in the Middle East? I would say two main things: a digitally native young population. So 30% of the population in the Middle East is between 15 and 29 years old. And the initiatives that national governments are promoting. You mentioned Saudi Arabia, Hamir, and Ellen, the initiative that Accenture is leading with the central bank in developing the open banking standards. But Saudi Arabia has recently published its national fintech strategy. It was approved last week. Targets a number of amazing initiatives on developing talents, developing regulations, the technical infrastructure. So there is really a government-led effort towards innovation and bringing open data framework in general.
So that's an overview. You're dialing in from Dubai. Could you just tell us a little before the other panelists chip in about what's happening in Dubai with open banking?
Well, in UAE, open finance more than open banking is where the industry is naturally heading. There is a guidance that comes from the government, from ADGM and the IFC. So for those who are dialing from Europe, these are the free trade zones. They provide guidance, but it's really an industry-led initiatives. I mean, there is a focus, of course, of the government in reinforcing Dubai as a global financial hub. And this is supported. The IFC, for example, has just launched an open finance lab in collaboration with 4 local banks and a prominent fintech. It's the first of such type regionally, and comes just after the establishment of 2 API sandboxes. So it's industry-led. There are very, very interesting developments to look at, and supported strongly by the desire of the government to establish Dubai as a financial hub globally.
So what I would say is I've spoken to your regulator. In fact, your regulator has appeared on around our campfires, and they are very, very inspired and hugely energetic. You're very fortunate to have a regulator. Mohammed, I would love your take on what's happening in your country, please.
Yeah, I think UAE as well. I will just comment on the same what Serena was discussing. You know, the interesting thing in UAE is that we have around, I think, for open banking, around 3 regulators. We have the IFC or the DFSA, and we have ADGM in Abu Dhabi, and we have the central bank. 3 of them, I think, they signed some, an MOU or something about collaboration in this area. On all the fintech, I would say, all the fintech, initiatives, so they can harmonize all their goals. And what happened is that we have, for example, ADGM, they came a few months back or last year with a third party, integration, so people could integrate with a third party, which means a fintech and banks. DFSA working on the same. And now this will bring us, is it market-led or industry or a regulator-led or initiative, whatever. So now what's going on here, I think I would have a discussion. I was like fortunate as well to moderate a panel recently about open banking. And from the regulators, they said, okay, we don't want to be a regulatory, driven market, because we could see it happen somewhere other places, and people does not really, like to go for it, but they want just to tick the boxes. What we are trying to do here, we are trying to make it a seamless journey for our stakeholders. So we're trying to put some kind of framework or standards and so on, and encourage the players to go in. So it will be a hybrid model, and I think this is a great thing that UAE is doing, actually, not to force. I think Bahrain went in the direction saying, okay, here is the mandate, go ahead, you have to do it. And I think with open finance, Bahrain is going in the other way. They are going also to be market driven with regulators, just doing initiatives and so on to encourage people. UAE is going for the same direction as a hybrid model. And I think this is hopefully will do a great thing, because I could see many banks here. I also do consulting advisor with many banks here. Most of them are really looking at open banking. Some of them, they put their APIs as well. At the same time, I'm a part of the FinTech Work Group for Arab Monetary Fund. And as Serena discussed, we have some initiative with all the Arab 22 central banks, and we could see from our interaction with them, there is a big focus or initiatives happening around for open banking. So UAE, I think it's going, as I said, in a hybrid model, as other banks, other central banks might go for this later on. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always interesting whether it's compliance led or market driven, and
yes.
That's always an interesting debate. So hybrid, you say. Amir, tell us about, I know you're in Riyadh, but your business is based in Bahrain. Tell us what's happening in Bahrain, please.
So no, thanks, Ellen. Very interesting comments, to be honest. I think something which really excites, and the way I see this excitement in everybody I meet, in Saudi, in Riyadh, and also in Bahrain as well. I think the excitement is about customers, right? Which is, again, it's just an amazing thing to, when you speak, again, there are different kind of, let's say, understanding of open banking or open finance at the moment, depending on different kind of, let's say, a target customer set you're talking to, etc., or the, kind of banks who are involved in this, or the, other kind of parties involved in this. But I think one thing is coming across very common, which is around something which literally change and transforms how customer gets benefited out of this. Actually, I think that is something quite common across the kind of a board. One thing which I keep hearing a lot, to be very honest, because we're talking to a lot of kind of players in the market, is about monetization, which is quite an interesting kind of a topic and subject. We can just kind of spend the whole hour on that. So I think that's something which comes up quite regularly. I think if I keep on the same kind of a hat on, or the thought process on, actually. So if you think about Saudi and Bahrain, very much regulatory driven. So Bahrain has been very much regulatory driven. I think now, as Muhammad mentioned, I think they're kind of literally taking a step back and realigning themselves with the market realities as well at the same time. Sama, quite huge thing going on at Sama at the moment. A lot of excitement around it, and I know you've been kind of literally recently part of this as well, and we have been, from Spire perspective, have been quite a detailed and detailed conversations having with Sama and rest of the players in the market as well. So I think excitement is there. I think everybody's looking towards Sama at the moment right now, very eagerly. I think there's some kind of comments going on, some assumptions going on around in the market at the moment on what's going to happen. But to be honest, until it's out, you don't know what's out. So I think that is something quite kind of exciting at the moment.
It certainly is exciting. So the Middle East is it's all happening. It's at the early adoption stage. So as you've just said, Amir, that it's all about the use case. It's all about the customer. So I'd like now for us to focus on those. What are the opportunities, both for the fintech, for the banks, and for the customers? So it's about engaging with that ecosystem, creating those use cases. So Serena, please, talk to me a little bit about the use cases that you're seeing in the market and some of the opportunities. And let's see if we can inspire our audience.
Well, obviously, I mean, we have already mentioned that most of the GCC countries are working towards the diversification of their economy. So the national strategies, they all have national strategies that are actually driving this development. On top of the priorities is the financial sector. So there is also not only an industry led generation of use cases, but is also really like government led. Obviously, Saudi Arabia, and I think it's at the center of the discussion, is a particularly interesting ground for adoption. Population of 35 million people, more than half is between 50 and 44 years old. We have in Saudi Arabia an impressive number of SMEs and thousands of micro SMEs. And these actually generate fantastic use cases for fintech. Banks and fintech are enabling open finance, and we see cases like Spear. There is Taraboot Gateway that entered from Bahrain, entered successfully Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Lean is another very successful example. The banks, Riyadh Bank has established an open innovation platform for the Arab National Bank, together with Saudi National Bank, have live sandboxes for testing. So, I mean, there are, on the fintech side, 120 fintech are operating in Saudi as of I think few months ago. So I imagine more have raised. Meanwhile, they're taking advantage of the opportunities. The first fintech that has been approved by SAMA, Mala Technology, is a very interesting startup. They developed an app for personal wealth management and budgeting. And they became in March the first fintech to obtain a permit from SAMA to roll out Open API in relation to open banking. So there are very interesting use cases in terms of on customer side, mostly related to the personal finance budgeting, and then SMEs, I think, are the biggest opportunity in the country. And this is something that is shared in GCC countries in general.
Thank you. So it'll be interesting to see how that market develops, because in the UK, we started off with a lot of personal finance management companies, and now one of the best use cases in the world, of course, is from our government collecting our taxes. HMRC, 5.2 billion of payments and 100% reconciliation. So saving the government both in card fees and in processing time. So I wonder if that would inspire other governments in the Middle East. But we started with PFMs, and our APIs are written about, it's all about payments, so a different starting point, which I want to cover in a moment. I'm keen to understand about the use case in Bahrain. What do we need to know?
So Helen, I think it's a natural evolution, to be fair. If you look at any whether it's regulator driven or market driven, if you start thinking about it, it's a natural evolution, actually starting from some kind of a retail use cases, and slowly and gradually moving towards some SME use cases. And then move towards some kind of a payment kind of a space as well. As soon as the quality of connectivity and APIs and all this kind of stuff as it improves, I think slowly and gradually fintechs and other kind of players in the market, they move towards that direction. So I think I would I really kind of enjoyed those kind of stats from Serena, actually. So right. I think it's very much on the similar line what we have are kind of seeing in the market. I think PFM seems to be the winner at the moment, I think, as a starting point. Then there are slightly different versions of PFM. I think they're just kind of offering some kind of a unique services along with PFM. I think that's something which is happening. For example, one of the largest player in Bahrain right now, I think they came up with their financial services kind of a vertical, and then they are launching something which is more around payments and cards, but attached to some kind of a PFM capabilities as well. So that's something which is happening right now. If you think about Saudi, If you just go back, a few months, if you think about Sandbox, I think 18 or 19 kind of a players in the Sandbox, right? I think if you look at that, out of them, 16 or something was more around, or 15 or 16 more around. And again, Serena has got a lot of stats, so I'm sure she can, look at that. But I think 15 or 16 out of that were around PFM. Actually, that's something which they were doing. I think the challenge is with those use cases, although they're easy and it's kind of a no-brainer actually to start picking up those use cases and start working. But I think as a business, if you want to start picking up, as a fintech, as a business, you want to start picking up those use cases, then you need to really think about how to differentiate yourselves actually. And how do you engage customer on a longer period of time? It's not only just once login, enjoy, look at it, and just looks very good. But it's more idea is, once you do that, what kind of a long-term value you will be delivering to the consumer, which differentiates yourself from the rest of the kind of a players in the market. So I think that is what's definitely happening around PFM. Then some SME use cases I've seen actually. We met quite a few recently in Riyadh, some fintechs, and they are just kind of picking up very unique kind of a use cases. And again, as you know, with this Zatka compliant environment within Saudi recently, they had the phase 1 and phase 2 coming up, which is all about invoicing and how you make sure the invoicing is all kind of a digital and go through a certain process. I think that is again enabling a lot of thought process around how you can really connect some kind of a payments attached to open banking payments attached to it. And if you can attach a couple of other capabilities actually for SME kind of a business, which is the largest business supporting, the largest, I think more than 45-50% kind of employment in the kingdom, how you can really enable those kind of SMEs to use the power of open banking and reduce the cost of doing business, but at the same time increase the certainty of the business, reduce the risk at the same time. I think they're quite a good combination actually if you start looking towards SMEs at the same time.
That's really interesting. Seriously, that's lessons learned from the UK. We would endorse that. So what you're saying is that your two front horses would be PFM and the corporate payments market, the SME market. Mohammed, if you're a betting man, give me a segment that is going to lead the way in the Middle East then, please.
See, I think what Amir discussed is very interesting and important. I think it's like, with open banking as a payment and so on, BFM becomes a common thing. I call it Me Too syndrome. So everybody's going for BFM, but at a time, was not really just, it wasn't really, nobody will just to do such big investment and all this platform just do BFM. And what he discussed, which is also, I came from Riyadh, by the way, today, I just arrived an hour back. Very interesting. So now what's happening is that they're going
We should have met.
Yes.
And I would have willingly joined you guys. I really would have.
Yes. No, really, it was very interesting to hear this, just arrived a few hours back. That's why I had a panel in the morning. I couldn't make it because I was on flight. So I will move to this panel. So I'm very glad to be with you today. So now what's happening is truly is going through financing and SMEs. And I think this is where the economy have some big needs here, really. Like SMEs have a problem of not able to get the right financing. At the same time, there is no payment. SMEs payment platform are there. Everything has been B2C. You move into SMEs, then the demand is really big. We have now some buy now, pay later going into SMEs. Those guys, they want to know about the SMEs and all this portfolio and what's happening with banks and other areas. So the SMEs aggregation, I was discussing the same with someone in Riyadh 2 days back, that there is some SMEs aggregation of SMEs portfolio like the BFM or whatever you can call it. But this is for SMEs, and this is moving from payment into financing, or the ability to give kind of scoring to these guys, and they are able to find them the right financing, which is they need from industries. So I would say the SMEs is the part which is really, there is lots of work is going on, I think. And then we have nowadays, you can see there is a wave as well going into what you call it corporate cards. People are doing lots of corporate cards. They call it corporate cards or, financing application through a card and so on. And this is all the discussion here is to bring it, to put it in a platform or, like a marketplace or whatever, and they're able to connect to many banks because these guys, they have more than one bank and so on. So this is the area really, I would say the SMEs is the thing which is really will make a big difference for open banking and, beyond just only BFM and payment. The other things here is we have lots of platforms going for mortgages and so on, and this most of them as well. You are stuck with one bank. So the open finance, or going from doing an API for payment to financing and so on. I think some of the home financing, because home financing is going big also in a place like UAE. People are able to get scored as well, the right scoring, the right customer behavior and so on. And for mortgages, and this is another area I would say for consumer, which we're going to see it soon, utilizing open finance, open banking.
So
Actually,
please go on, Amir.
No, actually, very interesting, thoughts. I would say. I think lending is another part. Another thing which I've seen very recently, again, not only seen, spoken to a few very influential kind of, let's say, players in the market, really thinking about how to improve credit scores, for example, right? Especially when you start thinking about the gig economy, right? And the traditional kind of a scoring mechanism is not really up for that. So how we can really combine the power of this traditional kind of a scoring, and if you can combine this with a data-enabled kind of a open banking kind of a scoring as well at the same time, how you can really improve those scores, and it kind of serves a lot of different purposes. For example, financial inclusion, and it just kind of serves the underserved, etc. So I think it does kind of solves a lot of other kind of challenges as well for the economy, and I think that's where a lot of conversations is happening, which I personally have been having in the last few days. And just one last thing, actually, Mohammed, going back to your point, I actually met one of the fintechs yesterday. They launched this corporate card, I think a couple of weeks ago, and they are offering these cards to SMEs and different kind. And again, we are talking about how we can really enable. And again, there's a phased approach, obviously, because how we can enable the data play, if you want to call it, the SME data play at this stage, how we can utilize it, and then also at the same time how we can plug in those payments, open banking payments to it, attached to it, kind of stuff. So that's something which we're talking to them. And one last thing on this, another thing which I've literally, after having so many conversations in the region, actually, what I've noticed is sometimes we really need to go back to basics, right? So one of the things which everybody talks about is categorization, right? So it's as basic as 101, but it's as fundamental as most critical thing, actually, whatever you do actually on top of that, transactions. So you get this data, how do you enrich, how do you ensure that it's, you increase the probability of getting the right data, probability of getting the right location, right merchant, right name, right, all this kind of stuff. This itself, to be honest, if somebody really wants to crack it, really well, I think it would take them a long time to do that. So that's I call it go back to basics, because that can be the fundamental of data aggregation, for example.
So that is a lovely segue to my next question. Just want to slightly change gear, because so far we've heard lots of optimism, lots of opportunity. So let's actually just change gear slightly. So thank you for that segue here. Serena, I'm curious now that we talk about some of the challenges. So keeping with my sort of riding analogy, the fences ahead of us, the challenges that we have in the Middle East in terms of the frameworks. And if we know what the challenges are for open banking, open finance, we can get ready for them. So I'd like to talk about that and actually give some sort of wise ideas and what people can do in readiness, because there clearly is a huge opportunity out there.
Yeah, agreed, Alan. In my view, an open banking, open finance framework is already an opportunity to solve some of the challenges that we have. So, there are countries in the Gulf, in the Middle East, that are heading towards this direction. Of course, big challenge in the region, wider Middle East region, is financial inclusion. That's one of the first objectives of a government-led open banking / open finance framework. Data fragmentation is something else that we need to look after. And in some countries, specifically, barrier to entries for fintech. And as you know, and as we have seen largely in the UK, mostly generated by incumbents, by the way. So in general, a bit of of the things that are actually the objectives that the open banking framework is trying to solve. Then we have a technical infrastructure that is an element that still needs effort. For example, the development of cloud, data security, wider diffusion of 5Gs. Just to start with, in Saudi Arabia, the data storage regulation that doesn't allow to store data outside of Saudi Arabia. And I mean, they're working on this obviously with big cloud provider. And I would say that the Middle East has a challenge right now that actually is a very relevant opportunity, and is really would be to have a wider central banks alignment to develop finally, and this is not only on open finance, actually is relevant to a number of aspects of the financial sector, but to develop a common framework, common technical standards, so an agreement at GCC level at least to promote interoperability and passporting in the region. This would create unparalleled market for fintech. Imagine all the GCC countries together with the adoption we could have in the country. So larger adoption, user experience would be much greater. Consider that, I mean, most of GCC residents actually have shared the bank account, trade in different countries. Just imagine Saudi Arabia and UAE and Bahrain, right? So interoperability.
So I'm smiling. I was just about to agree with this. My interoperability is my sort of pet topic. It really, really is. And I would love just to stay here because it's absolutely key. It's like going on holiday and not having the right plug adapter, isn't it? You know, everything from your hair straighteners don't work to, you can't charge your MacBook Air. So interoperability is just like having the right adapter when you travel. So Mohammed, I am dying now to hear your insight on some of the challenges, particularly around the technical infrastructure, the technical framework, and of course, interoperability.
I will tell you, I've been a CIO in banking for many years, and I can tell you the first thing is that banking is very conservative when it comes to security and integration with third parties. Okay, we've been working in a very much closed, not really closed, but we have something big like SWIFT, for example. Lots of barriers, lots of security gates, and so on. SWIFT is SWIFT. It's a big company. It's well trusted, and so on. When we integrate with them, we are fine. But now what I can see is that the challenge here is that you are getting a very strong and very old, I would say, legacy systems and bank with 100 years or many years to integrate with a small fintech which is coming. Nimble, they are young guys, they are coming with their own great stuff. Here the security become an issue. Why? Because now for banking, for example, the bank is responsible for your data 100% compliance, and as soon as the data leaves the bank, who's going to be responsible? Is it the fintech? It is the bank. So the security here, the lines are diminishing here. So it's not only integrated technology. You can put all the technology which you can do. Security is great. We can put all the tools, but here come compliance and responsibility, accountability, and so on, especially for data and the privacy leakage and so on. So we need to get some kind of, I would say, standards for sharing data between banks and this third party, which is fintechs. So that's a very important thing. We have more than technical technology. Really, is the culture, culture change. I would say either from consumer, which we're going to deal with a fintech company, is not with a bank, because people see even in our region, isn't this bank is belong to this country, to these people who are happy to talk to. But when you're bringing them in to talk up to a fintech or a company, then it becomes questionable. People need to ask and see, okay, am I secured and so on. I could see from a technical point of view. Yes, go ahead.
No, please, no, sorry, I was agreeing with you. Sorry, yeah, please. Yeah.
So in the other thing, now you can see many big banks, which we discussed nowadays. Our colleagues mentioned some in Saudi, some in UAE here, Emirates, MBD, FAP, whatever. The big banks are opening their boundaries. They start having the layer of technology to test with others, while the mid small size banks are still hesitant to go into this because they're still small. Is it important for you or not? Do they have the muscle to spend on this technology, which will gonna come soon? So this is something really will take some time for mid to small banks, which I was doing some consulting with some of these, and it's still, for them to jump into this, it might take some time. While the big banks, which is, I think they have their ecosystem, they are pushing for it, and I think they know that there is some benefits they're gonna get. So that's happening. But as I said, regulation might give some kind of, as I said, not going the regulatory, approach 100%, might give to consumer some confidence and might give to banks to start working on it. So I would say the culture more than technology is a more barriers here, more challenging actually.
So there's a couple of things that I want to sort of take forward, Amir, if we can. So we've got the culture of change and generally the culture. We've got Serena's point around the alignment of banks and regulators driving forward, unity, particularly around interoperability. So, Amir, what would you have to say are the challenges in the Middle East? And if we can touch on some of those and just delve a little further, that would be fabulous.
Thanks, Helen. I think it's typically, because we've been, I'm sure all of us have been, change professionals throughout the life, right? It's a lifelong kind of a journey on a change. I think every time when something new comes in, there are multiple ways to manage it and handle it, right? Open banking is something new in the region. Everybody knows that there's a learning cost attached to it, right? There is some regulatory cost attached to it. There is some kind of a, skill set, all those kind of other kind of acquisition they need to do. Actually, that's again requires some timelines, etc. And most importantly, I think this understanding of what exactly it is, number one. And I think that's where perhaps, Helen, your role and people like yourself become very, very crucial. Actually, so understanding of what it is and what's in it for me. And I think these are, and again, we can come down to, I know Muhammad and Serena, they touched on other kind of areas, but I think we can come down to those areas. But I think these are some of those fundamental questions which need some answers, right? Because as soon as we start getting some answers, it would become, everybody start coming on the same page. They understand how it works, they understand what the learning opportunity is or learning cost is. So again, I think I just already said this word, which is like, it needs to be seen as a learning opportunity rather than learning cost, because as soon as you start seeing it as a cost, you have a very different mindset to deal with it. But as soon as you start looking into learning opportunity, that's an amazing way of getting into this. Sorry, go ahead. I think you're saying something.
No, I'm agreeing with you. Sorry, I'm agreeing with you. We've got a question from the audience, inspired by Mohammed, but it plays to your point about opportunities. Do you see the emergence of an alternative to SWIFT with open banking? Who wants to take? Oh, Mohammed, you first. Go for it.
I would say this will take time because we have an alternative to SWIFT, which was Ripple, and it doesn't pick up till date. Which is from a blockchain point of view. I think Ripple is still there, but will it affect it SWIFT big time? It's not. I think it's gonna take some time because the SWIFT ecosystem is different, but I think we're going to see, I agree that open banking will encourage other players to come into this space, and then maybe over years either SWIFT to change itself or something will happen. But I think it's going to take some time. Thank you.
Serena, do you have anything? Oh, sorry, Amir, you first, please.
No, Serena, please go ahead.
Well, I would agree with Mohammed. Will take some time. However, we are assisting already to a very credible alternative to SWIFT that is blockchain in general. No, so and everything that is on chain. I mean, would this be a blockchain or others? And the Middle East is an amazing ground to test this. I mean, Dubai is publishing advertising plans to become the new crypto valley, and for the Middle East, but not only a crypto hub globally. So blockchain companies are actually flourishing in UAE, and very, very interesting ground to see.
Interesting. Amir, please, you wanted to say something.
Yeah, actually, my kind of comment is always around scalability, right? So if you truly see the scale of Swift, that's amazing, right? So I don't think it's easy to replace or change Swift, as I think very well kind of Mohammed said at the same time. It's not even, I don't think at this stage anybody even thinking about that. And I don't think it can happen. But yes, over the period of time, as we move forward, as this kind of capability or this kind of framework gets more mature, it gets more you can just keep moving in different kind of geographical locations, a different kind of a connectivity, common standards. As soon as we start moving towards that, I think there's a possibility in the long run, in a very long run, to definitely kind of have some kind of replacement of this. But at this stage, I think it's too early to even talk about it.
But a great question, and thank you to whoever asked that. It really did. It was a good conversation. Okay, we have another question. So clearly the audience are very engaged. Are there any specific reporting and audit requirements in terms of open finance? Serena, PwC, got to start with you first. Yeah.
I'm not sure what the question wants to address. I mean, in terms of reporting requirements to regulators, specifically for open finance, maybe. Well, there are new frameworks that regulators in general are developing to license fintech, for example. So depending on the type of license that you get, then you have a number of different reporting requirements. For sure, something that is becoming important, apart from the audit-specific prudential matters, something that is becoming relevant is all the security aspect. Not only some regulators in the region, some the central bank in UAE are really looking at security, data sharing, cyber security, so that all these frameworks are actually established, sustainable, and effectively managed in the day-to-day life of the company. And then in UAE there is the big theme around AML, of course. So concerns that then have been addressed by the central bank and HESCA and are continuously addressed in new frameworks that are evolving. So I would say specific to open finance is mostly around really like data sharing, how you get consent, client consent. So obviously there is all these practices that need to be shared, but mostly attention around data security, cyber security, AML.
Thank you, Serena. Thank you. So as we gently begin to wrap up, we've got sort of 6 or 7 minutes left. I just want to start looking at next steps. What would be your wise counsel? What does the Middle East need to do to continue this exciting trajectory? Amir, I know it's you're going to talk about it, invested opportunity, learning opportunities, but give some practical next steps. If you were a fintech, wanting to launch in the Middle East, or what would you do? What are the practical next steps?
So I think if I'm a fintech, I think I really need a very strong and mature playground to play, right? And when I say playground to play, that's the only way where I can literally test and learn, right? And sorry, I keep going back to learning.
Yeah.
So I think because I do feel very strongly that this is the key over here. Actually, how to make it. There's a very thin line between success and kind of failure. Again, there's no failure; it's all learning again. So, but I think playground is important, and that's why when Serena was talking about this DIFC, established this open finance lab. it's an amazing initiative, right? 4 banks, 1 fintech, very progressive fintech, working with the central kind of authorities to create this playground on how open finance would impact the consumers, the economy. So I think that's just one example. If you look at other kind of areas, fintech Saudi is doing an amazing amount of job to create that playground, I would say. For example, in CBB, Central Bank of Bahrain is doing. So I think for me, if you say one takeaway is to have this playground where fintechs can come in and they can play and test their use cases and learn, and then they take some feedbacks in actually, and then how to improve that. I think that's one of the key critical thing towards adoption. And again, adoption is really high on my list. So, every time I talk about open banking, open finance, I say, guys, where's the adoption? We need to literally think about adoption. So, again, that's my 2 cents. I think that's really critical for us.
I'd say a very valuable 2 cents. Mohammed, next steps to underwrite the success in open banking, open finance in the Middle East, please.
Thank you. I think what Amir said is very important, which I can summarize. What I think is that ecosystem partnership should be there. So now big players, you have to come together and start doing something on this front. But very important that regulator does not leave these things ambiguous, because now people say, okay, is it coming? We have a regulator or not? But at least the principle, like what people are trying to do in UAE here, it should be laid to people, explained to people, said, okay, this is the principle. You guys go, with these guidelines, go and start working. So people, still the many banks are waiting to hear from your regulation about this big thing or this new things called open banking, open finance. So regulator has to give some kind of playground. You make it at least, the initiative in the beginning, and let people start to innovate around it. So there is some kind of guidance required from regulators, because it's still, in some markets, as I said, people are waiting. Some people, they like to know what regulation. I think Saudi done great as well. They done something very little, or something as a beginning, and they stop. US trying to do the same. In the region here, you need regulation to do some kind of, as I said, like initial steps to get people to start working on it. Ecosystem partnership is very important between big banks, big players. I think big banks, they have the muscles and the means. They can go and try and so on. And this, I think, they have, a big responsibility to push this forward. And as well the investors, because people invest, for fintechs, they need to get some kind of investment, and this is really a great opportunity for investors, because I think the future for being open, actually, you like it or not, things will change. Banking will have a role, the innovator will have another role. It wouldn't be the same like before. So investors, I think, they should back this kind of startups and help them out.
That's a brilliant way to wrap it up. Serena, quickly, because I've got a question that I want to answer as well. What would be your advice in terms of next steps to underwrite success in the Middle East?
Well, if we project ourselves in the future, we can imagine the tale of a grandparent, of a millennial grandparent being. I once had a single bank account. Can you imagine that? And the grandchildren would just say, yeah, I also use one bank account only. So the difference between the two is that those future bank accounts will provide a connected one-stop shop banking experience, rather than the banking in-app experience that we have now. No? And we see this in the Middle East as a massive potential opportunity and potential for development. Something we have seen in China with Alibaba, Tencent, Baidu, and something I think we have all the potential to see in the Middle East with certain super apps that are developing. So how to get there? I loved what Mohammed said in terms of what are governments doing, how they're addressing the open banking, open finance initiatives in these countries. So regulator-driven approach to open finance for me is key, especially going back to what we were saying, to drive interoperability and passporting can be only regulatory driven. support to entrepreneurship, venture capital activities, and so this regulatory alignment needs to happen. And together with the regulatory alignment, central infrastructure, central standards to have unified solutions, engagement forums with the industry, that's essential, and building on emerging technologies. That is something that the UAE is doing very successfully, and I hope to see this in other countries.
Beautifully wrapped up, Serena. And we could have talked for hours and hours. That time has just flown by, which speaks volumes. My last final question, I just want one word, okay? One word from each of you that describes the status of open finance in the Middle East. Mohammed, what would be your one word right now?
Development, or developing, I would say.
Okay. Serena, what would be your one word?
Innovation.
Innovation, development, innovation. Amir, make it a good one because it's going to be the last.
Oh, lots of pressure. I think excitement.
Excitement. Okay. Well, I think that this has been an exciting panel, and I would like to thank all of our panelists for being so generous with their insight. That time has just galloped past, to keep with my equestrian analogies. It really has been good fun and very, very knowledgeable in terms of sort of continuing learning, which is what we've been talking about. What I would like to say is that Open Banking Excellence, we are creating an index. We're just closing this global survey, surveying 27 countries around the world for open finance readiness. It's on our LinkedIn page, Open Banking Excellence, but I am going to ask the guys at API Days to send it to everybody, because listening to this panel and one I was on before, there is so much happening in the Middle East. It would be a shame if we didn't capture it all in this global survey. This is a pioneering piece of work that we're doing, and I would like the Middle East to have the ranking that they deserve, because what I've heard, it really is an exciting region. So I think that just about rounds us up. I'm just going to wait for the moderator to come back on stage. But thank you very, very much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your generosity. Thank you.
Thank you, Helen. Thank you, Serena.
Helen.
Thank you, Mohammed.
Bye.
Thank you, Hamir, Mohammed. Pleasure, Helen, to being moderated by you. Thank you.
Oh, Serena, I would love to have a chat with you. And are we done?
Yes, Helen, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for moderating this innovative, exciting panel discussion on a development segment. Thank you.
Would you mind if I send that survey to you, and I'll send it over the weekend to you, and
sure,
you guys
sure.
send it to everybody? There's so much information I'd love to capture. Yeah. But it's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye. Good luck with the rest of your time. Take care. We did it. We absolutely got it away.
So that was Helen Child moderating the panel discussion on the topic of open finance, along with Serena Sebastiani, Mohammad Roshdi, and Amir Janjua. Moving on, let me start by introducing myself if you have missed that. I'm Prashant from Bangalore. I'm a co-organizer of API Days, Dubai and Middle East. For the next session, it's me who is presenting to you. The topic of mine is Journey to Open Finance and Open Data. So, yes, the region in focus is Dubai and Middle East, but what I'm presenting to you today is about India, a different approach to the open data and open finance that India is taking. And it's quite a radically different approach than what you have seen, that you have heard today, everything. India Stack, I'm sure you all would have heard this name at some point or the other in context of the global digital public goods concept. India Stack comprises of a plethora of digital public goods built by the India government or the organizations associated with India government, or else the organizations or the public-private partnership model. These essentially focuses on three areas: cashless layer, paperless layer, and a presenceless layer. By cashless layer, the aim was to reduce the dependency on the physical currency and move to a electronic payment or a digital payment interfaces. Paperless layer wanted to reduce the usage of paper in terms of the applications to submit, the documents to be signed, the address proofs to be submitted, the KYC documents to be submitted, everything. And the presenceless layer, where you don't need to be essentially present, but yes, you can use one of your either identities, one of the other digital public goods, in order to validate your presence. So as you can see in the cashless layer, the flag bearer of India is the Unified Payment Interface, UPI, which is the fastest growing real-time payment platform anywhere in the world, and is being adopted by many countries. Even in the Middle East region, UPI payment in Indian rupees is possible in some of the areas. And UPI has a seamless integration with the payment system, payment network in the say Singapore. So these three layers were there. They came into existence from post 2005 onwards on a gradual model, and then these brought in a huge amount of change in terms of digital adoption, a digital transformation in the way the people interact. As much as even to go and buy a 5 cents a biscuit packet, a small biscuit packet, or a tea, which costs roughly say 10 cents. You can use a mobile app, use a UPI payment app, and do the payment. You don't need to know the minimum amount is not even, there is no minimum amount condition to comply with, right? But did it solve all the problems? No, it didn't solve all the problems. There are some problems which were still left unaddressed, right? So one is so these are some of the problems that still a section of the society faced or are facing. So like paper-based processes, the economy still quite a lot of it is informal even after all this digital progress. The lack of touch points, lack of access to say a bank or a bank representative, and then high interest rate, partly because the bank doesn't know you. Balance sheet or asset-based lending, only if I as a person, Prashant as an individual, can go and show my property, I might be able to proof of my property, I might be able to get a loan. Or else for my business, I need to get the money, I need to have all the details of the cash flows that I am having, and then for that I will require a huge amount of printouts of say past 12 months of transactions, right? And of course the heavy dependency on the physical currency, and the lack of credit history, because a lot of the dependency on the physical currency and this informal nature of the economy leads to a non-existence or a low credit history. So part of these problems in some way or the other needed to be addressed. And how is it? The common factor among these, to address all these problems, is the data. How to make the data make available for everybody. Right? So I, as an individual, has a say 20 years of banking transactions, banking history with one bank, and then bank A. And then I'm going to bank B for a loan. For maybe bank B is offering a better rates, or bank A, I'm still continuing because my salary is coming there, but I don't want to really continue with the bank A, and I want to go to the bank B. So I'm taking a mortgage, and bank B requires a plethora of documents, hard copies, signed, everything, right? So 2 years ago, Reserve Bank of India, that is the banking authority in India. So rather, 4 years ago, Banking Authority of India organized a working group to bring up a consented data transfer model in India, a real-time transfer model, and the output is the data empowerment and protection architecture. And this enables a consented, secure transfer of the data to any party to whom I give consent to, right? So it essentially brings in 3 sets of parties, or rather 4. I as an user, I or an SME, it can be, to financial information providers. Say in this case, the bank A, with whom I have the banking history for the past 20 years, and my salaries or income is coming there, so for the years to come. Financial information user, the bank B, from whom I am now taking the mortgage, and an account aggregator, a new set of entities who will facilitate this secure data transfer. And it's all data is encrypted, data access is provided in a consented manner and time-bound method. As in, say, I'm taking the mortgage for say 10 years, right? And to release the process the mortgage, bank B will require details of how much salary, what salary I have been, or what is the income of mine every month for the past 1 year, say, right? So they need the data of last 1 year of my bank details, right? And then in order to ensure that my mortgage account is not turning into a non-performing asset, and to take any proactive measures, they will need to do a continuous monitoring. So that can be enabled if they have access to my account data in some form or the other, say for the next 10 years, or say for the first 5 years of my mortgage tenure. This data empowerment and protection architecture enables me to provide the consent for a particular duration of time. So for one time, I can give access to my past 1 year data, and for a continuous basis for a 5 years, I can give them access to bank B, the access to my bank account to the extent of ensuring that I am remaining solvent. Right? So this whole account aggregator ecosystem was brought into place, not just not just like that. They have put there enough thoughts, enough care has been taken into ensure that the different aspects of the different nuances of this ecosystem is covered as part of this full set of regulations. So, right, the RBI, the banking authorities directives are there, master directions are there. Then banking authority itself has a IT subsidiary who has built the API specifications to be followed for this. Then there are organizations, self-regulatory organizations, and the the member organizations like the account aggregators who will do the advocacy, who will ensure the awareness. Then there are central registries of different participants, their approvals, the keys to be used for API verification. Then the security aspects, API token or digital signatures, and the certification to ensure that the systems being used by the banks, any financial information user or a financial information provider or an account aggregator is up to the standards, are safe and secure. Then the integration standards, then the participation terms under which the general agreement between the different parties, then how the dispute gets resolved, and the dashboard at a entity level or I'll say aggregate level on how the account aggregator ecosystem is performing. Then what is the minimum guidelines or guidance on the customer experience? What are the minimum fields that these different stakeholders need to ensure that a customer is aware of what he or she is doing? Then the basic checklist on to ensure that they all adhere to a common code of conduct. Then how the account aggregators or any other party gets compensated for their performing their duties, then a ever evolving framework to bring in more stakeholders to this ecosystem. To start with, this ecosystem started with only the banking regulator, and then it moved on to the insurance regulator, right? And then in the next couple of months, the my stock holdings, shareholdings will be also part of this, right? And then the GST, or the goods and service tax, details can be made. So if I'm an SME, my GST compliance, GST payment, how much tax I'm paying, all the details will be made available as part of this network, right? And definitely the privacy technologies, and to ensure that the data is completely secure, data is masked wherever required, everything, right? And then, so this is a glimpse of the account aggregator ecosystem right now. So here you can see how much of the different set of entities that are joining this ecosystem, like the banks, the insurance companies, these non-banking financial companies, the retirement investment advisors, the fintechs, and then the organizations which are providing the technical know-how and capability, and then the API infrastructure services providers. There are payment platforms like the Google Pay, who leverages the UPI infrastructure for the making the payment. So essentially what it did to the India stack, this account aggregator ecosystem on the data empowerment and protection architecture brought in a consent layer to the India stack, which ensured that a secure data sharing framework is established and a methodology is established. And it started with the financial services sector. But is it only restricted to financial services sector? No, that's definitely a no, right? So some of the current use cases which are being adopted and or being experimented are, so omni-channel, omni-product, loan origination, a continuous account monitoring, a data-driven PFM. So the PFM services in general in India are provided by the fintechs, and fintechs currently are not part of the entities who have the authorization to be formally part of this account aggregator ecosystem, but they do still play a part via the banks with which they have the tie-up, right? And the future scope, that's an unlimited one, right? It at the end of day, any sort of data is being securely shared with consent. So it can be an education certificate. You're moving jobs, you're moving from you're joining a new education institution for a new course, and they want to have your past qualifications, past courses that you have done, or you achieved 10 credits, you're moving into another university for another 10 credits, and yes, you can transfer your proof of the 10 credits that you have in this secure manner. And then similarly with the health records, you are sharing it from one hospital's records and with another hospital in a secure manner. And another option that could be being discussed is an instant sort of a credit scoring. If I can provide my, say, last 5 years of banking, all sorts of financial services data, like bank or a stock holding or everything, I can the modern big data driven algorithms can even do an instant credit scoring and provide me a loan, even if I have no credit history, even if I was not part of not any formal sort of a credit scoring system, right? No, so just summarizing at a high level the benefits to different set of stakeholders, right? So for financial institutions, it brings in lower cost of acquisition. They can process the loan, they can do their processing faster, and they can avoid with the intermediaries and the commission thereby, and they can bring in innovation and bring in new value-added services and offerings to the customers. And then can be looked at adjacencies or leveraging it for using other set of similar data points from the other industries, right? Then from an individual perspective, I don't have to take a tons of printouts, put in tons of signatures. I just can transfer these data securely, so no paper. Then faster processing. I don't need to go behind a agent to get my document submitted. Rather, it gets submitted electronically faster. And then, of course, I'm going to be, I'm sure looking forward to better financial products, because the bank has different access to far more data than they normally would have, or that normally they could process if we were still sticking to the paper-based processes. And of course, this granular level of data enables the banks to price the product accordingly. A lower interest rate could always benefit the customer. Similarly, for the SME customers, right? It can lead to a cash flow based lending. So there are in post the COVID lockdown started, across the globe, the organizations have, there are a couple of a large number of smaller organizations that come into play, providing digital selling products online. So this is the perfect example where a cash flow based lending can be applied, and a daily deduction based on the cash flow and the loan they have taken, right? And they can get a better credit history or a faster credit history established. And of course, availing the support from the government schemes will make it a easier avenue for availing those services. Yeah. So key takeaways. In a lot of the previous sessions, you would have heard, right, that a market-driven approach or a regulator-driven approach, which is better. So as I said in the outset of this session, this all this data empowerment protection architecture and the account aggregator ecosystem were brought into place by the regulator, but this is not mandatory on any organization. This is on the basis of a reciprocity. So I'm just going back to the example of my bank A, bank B. So if bank A were a part of the account aggregator ecosystem, and bank A is willing to share it electronically, and bank B is not ready to accept in this manner, I am definitely, even if the interest rate is far lower, I might even choose to look for a bank C or a bank D, right? Because now once I get to know how good is, how better it is for me as an individual and as a customer to use this service, I would rather stick to that, right? So it is not it is initiated by regulator, but it is not mandated by regulator. It is more from a compliance, it is from a reciprocity basis and not compliance driven, right? And open data journey. India never had a proper open banking journey, but Indian banks are at the forefront of adoption of APIs. And in fact, one of the initial success stories across the globe on the corporate payments, API adoption in corporate payments is from India. So we just skip that one step, open banking step itself, or rather an open finance step itself, and we are directly moving into an open data journey. It's that the awareness is lower. It's that since the push from the government is not there, and the adoption of it is a little lower, right? Then it is inclusive of the bottom of the pyramid. As you are all aware, India is one of the, in terms of digital adoption, one of the fastest growing countries. And in terms of, having access to smartphones, India is, has a fairly good growth rate, right? So, and connecting back to the example I cited of making a payment of a tea that is less than 10 cents or less than that or around that via a digital payment, right? So this type of account aggregator ecosystem and the account aggregator mobile apps will enable the people at that bottom of the pyramid to have access to the formal credit, to have ability to transfer their data in a secure manner, right? And then this is an integral part of the India stack, and there are many other components which are work in progress across different other sectors. There is one on the educational side, there is one on the healthcare side. So all these are integrated and have a seamless working model. So this will all ensure that the digital transformation in India is in a comprehensive manner and not just limited to a banking or a finance sector or any particular sectors at all. Rather, it is comprehensive, it is well integrated, and it has those adjacency effect which will ensure that the growth rate is not rather just a simple addition, it is via a exponential way. I'll just check if there are any questions. Okay, I'm good. So thanks a lot for being here with me and listening to my session. Thank you. So now the next session we have is on embedded financial services and path to growth. Joining us for this is Dr. Burak Ulokak, CTO at Macro Group from Turkey.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you for having me at API Days.
Yes.
Today I will talk about embedded financial services and path to growth, as you mentioned. To introduce myself, my name is Burak Ulocak. I have more than 20 years of experience in financial services, information technology, and banking sectors. Also, I'm giving lectures about management of information services, project management, and agile product development in various universities. If we talk about Micro Group, which is a commercial software group in Turkey with 6 companies and more than 400 business partners, it serves to micro, small, and mid-sized entities and also to financial advisors. The group supplies ERP, accounting, bookkeeping, e-trade, regulation, and electronic financial document integration solutions to its customers. It has nearly 150,000 companies serving from more than 30 different sectors. If you look at the globe and to the big picture, in the last 50 years, the exponential growth of technology when compared to last 5,000 years of human history, it is much more. So technology is going very fast, and it is getting faster every year, as we all witness. At the beginning of the century, we have only simple machines. Then we had assembly lines. In 1970s, we have first programmable machines. But in the last 10 years, we have remote managed factories where no human being participates. And our machines now, with the help of big data, learn themselves. And even in the near future, they will not need human beings to manage those machines. When we look at the banking side, when it's compared to Industry 4.0, on the banking 4.0 side, the first banks were established in Italy in 14,000s, and nothing changed for nearly 500 years. Customers could get service only in branches through the related clerks with lots of paperwork. But beginning from 1980s, customers can do some of the banking transactions by themselves outside the branches with the help of ATMs, internet banking, and call centers. At the beginning of 2000s, now with the increase of mobile services and mobile phones, we had mobile banking in our hands. So banking became mobile instead of a standard thing. Then today, in the last 5 years, customers don't have to go to branches or use mobile applications to take or do banking transactions. Banks go to the where customers are in order to give them services. What do I mean? Banking services today became more and more embedded to the mobile applications, electronic trade platforms, web platforms, where people need banking services. And with the help of also artificial intelligence, we can offer different campaigns and opportunities to our customers when they need before they think of it. So to be a bank, you can't only depend on your banking functions. You have to be integrated with many different layers and platforms like electronic commerce, distribution partners, voice smart assistants. With the coming metaverse, augmented reality devices, game consoles, computers, and of course, smartphones. So, to be a bank, you can't only depend on your banking services. You have to be good at technology to be integrated to different technology platforms. Your business to be integrated to different business platforms. And you have to be good at delivery to offer good experience to your customers wherever they take your banking service. So when we look at Turkey in terms of digital services, it's one of the leading countries in the world in terms of digitalization of official, legal, and financial transactions. We have internet banking since 1997. We have mobile banking platforms since 2007. And electronic government portal was established in 2008, where you can complete many of your official and legal personal transactions without going to government offices and agencies. Also in 2010, it became possible to create financial documents electronically. And in 2013, first fintechs start to be established. Following pandemic, in parallel to all the globe, the regulations boomed also in Turkey in the last 2 years in order to offer more financial services and other APIs to the ecosystem. To look at the details, in 2010, creation of financial documents in electronic environment regulation took place. By this way, Treasury will be able to monitor, analyze, and report all the economic activities digitally. In the other side, we reduced the cost of these documents, these financial documents. A standard format was created. It is more secure, timely, and cost-saving for the users, for the customers. It increased the quality of public service, increased the speed of taxpayers' transactions, and of course, increased compliance with tax laws. We started with electronic invoice in 2010. Then the number of financial documents integrated to the system increased. Now we have about 11 different financial document types integrated to the system, like e-archive, waybill, self-employment receipt, expense, tickets, electronic insurance, electronic currency exchange, etc. The Treasury gives APIs for all these document types, where integrator companies like our group can be integrated, and their customers issue their financial documents digitally through their desktop, web, or mobile applications. In 2013, establishment of fintechs started. We have two big types. One is main types. One is payment institutions. Payment institutions have right to deposit and withdraw funds to the payment account. They also make invoice payments, mobile payments, money transfers, credit card payments, and give virtual POS services. We have 27 payment institutions right now in Turkey giving these services. Also, we have 29 electronic money institutions. These institutions give all the services a payment institution can give. Also, they can issue electronic money related to a fund. They can transfer electronic money, and also they have right to load this money to cards for the usage of their customers. As a result, we have about 60 electronic money and electronic payment institutions in Turkey, but many companies are also waiting list of the central bank. When we look at the electronic banking regulations in 2020, Banking Regulation Agency of Turkey published the standards of open banking. It said that the communication between the customer or the party acting on behalf of the customer and the bank should be in the form of end-to-end secure communication. They define the API gateways. In addition to that, additional compensatory controls should be applied by the bank, because they give the service of these APIs. And the platforms that give the service to their customers should verify the identity of the customer. For example, if I want to make a banking transaction through an electronic trade application, that electronic trade application should verify that I'm the right person who wants to do the necessary bank transaction. After this regulation in 2020, the number of banks who start to open their public APIs increased. Both the number of banks increased, and the number of APIs also increased, as you can see here. When we look at the ecosystem growth also, as you can see and compare the September 2020 and June 2021, the API portal banks increased, but also payment and institutions took place in the ecosystem for the first time. Also, API aggregators, API portals of fintechs, and API platforms also start to take place. When we come to 2021, as you see, every year a new regulation takes place. When we come to 2021, this time digital banking regulation was published, and for the first time in Turkey, we can see the branchless banks, with banks only giving service through their electronic channels took place. Also, the open banking regulations were detailed. Now it says that approved companies by the Banking Regulation Agency enable their customers to perform banking transactions by accessing the bank's services offered by the service bank through the open banking services via mobile application or web interface. To give a case, for example, Zubizu is a digital loyalty platform. Its job is loyalty, but they have a partnership with Türkiye Finance Participation Bank, and with this participation, they offer their customers a buy now, pay later product, and it is embedded to their mobile application. You can apply the credit limit through a Zubizu's application and become a bank customer through remote customer acquisition system without leaving the application. So you never go to the branch or go to the bank to be a customer of the bank. You do it through this Zubizu application. As a result, you can take an instant loan up to 36 months of installments, and you can use this limit both online or in store. After that, at the end of 2021, Payment Services Data Sharing Regulation took place. It is the PSD2 regulation of European Union. Turkey started to be integrated to that standard, and it will start at the beginning of 2023. According to this regulation, as I said, we had open banking regulation in 2020 covering all the banking transactions. But if you want to share account information and initiate a bank transaction, account transaction, you will have to be integrated to PSD2 standard, and it is this circle. When we look at the detail of that, this API platform will be managed by central bank, not banking regulation agency. For these two services, banks should be integrated to the API platform of central bank, and through that platform, they will share their services to the related electronic money and payment institutions. And API sharing is not enough. Those electronic payments and electronic money institutions should also do identity verification through their platforms, through their interfaces, to be sure that they give service to the right person. Now API portal is ready of the central bank, as you see here. Currently, banks and other institutions are working to be integrated, and they are doing their tests to be integrated to this portal till the end of 2022. As I mentioned, there are standards on the interface, as you see here, how to be integrated and use the platforms. If we look at some cases about these integrations from our group, for example, Parachute is a bookkeeping company of our group. As you can see, when you take the photo of your electronic invoice, you take that invoice data to the system. So all your company cash flows can be seen, monitored, and managed through your system. You have, as I mentioned, have integration with electronic invoice platform. So all your electronic invoices are sent to Treasury online, and you may have other banking transactions to be integrated to this platform. For example, ShopSite is another company of our group. It gives services to electronic trade companies. If you want to form a company through ShopSite, then you do it it is automatically integrated to electronic trade platforms. More than about 5 or 6 electronic trade platforms are integrated automatically. Then you have integration with our group's ERP or bookkeeping applications. You have automatic integration with courier services. So you can monitor your stocks, the stages of your courier, what is sold in an electronic trade platform through one application. Another example is Irgat. It is another group company. It assists the financial advisors. They feed data from electronically from government agencies on the right side, from tax agencies on the right side, from ERP platforms right here, and through banks. So as a financial advisor, if you want to see the details of your customer, you can see all of them through one mobile application. These all data is integrated with APIs to your mobile platform. Also, we have online banking account add-on solution. We have integration with 15 banks right now. You can see your accounts up to 15 banks of your company in one screen and monitor your cash flow and banking transactions from there. So it is not the last thing. For example, we have a lot of things to do in the coming future. I think we will be more integrated with wearables, smart homes, automobiles, healthcare, through financial services. So thank you for your listening. If you have any questions, I may take.
Hey, thanks, Dr. Burak. You gave a comprehensive view into how the Turkey and Macro Group in specific is approaching the open banking and leveraging it to grow. So one question. So how do you see the the adoption, the response from the customers, the end users in terms of it? Is it good? I mean, or are you putting in too much effort into awareness, building awareness? How is it?
In Turkey, people like to use mobile applications very much. I think we are one of the leading nation in the world that use mobile applications that much, and it's very easy for them. They do a lot of things from there. For example, while looking at Instagram or looking at Twitter, they can also do their job. The mobile banking application usage is very also extended. So what you put in mobile applications serves very well to all the customers, not only retail customers, but small and medium-sized entities also want to use mobile applications. So the
Right.
usage is very good, as I see.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks a lot for joining us here at Apidays Dubai and sharing your views and inputs. Appreciate it. Looking forward to meeting you in person next year in Dubai.
Okay, thank you very much. You too. See you.
So that brings an end to the third segment in stage one. We had the various discussions and sessions on embedded and open, the future of finance. In case you haven't already visited our partner booths, please do spend some time, take time out to visit that and to take part in the treasure hunt. You need to visit the partner booth to be a part of, to play the treasure hunt. Actually, you'll get the clues or the responses only if you have visited the booths. So on day 2, we will have some 2 interesting keynotes, and then we will focus on various other industries, including governance, law and order, then payments, aviation, and the various technology aspects of it, along with data privacy. Ahmedi.
Yeah. Hi, Prashant. So yeah, this day one was quite surprising to see like such innovation in let's say Dubai area, Middle East. We've also been in Africa, in Turkey, and in other places, right, where we've seen like, yeah, it's true that it seems open banking, let's say, like, because it's really strong in this area, or telcos are opening the path, but every business is embracing this API revolution. We've seen teams evolving into APIs, like really the people stack is shifting to APIs. We've seen also the tech stack, the standards, the API management solutions, the software used, like a container, Kubernetes, and other part, the microservice approach. So yeah, I'm really surprised by the maturity on in the region. We of course we do events like in every place of the world where it makes sense, but yeah, let's say it's really a place that was not enough known about their API expertise. So yeah, we're really glad to do this conference.
Yes, definitely. We heard quite a good number of examples or success stories inside this region where the banks are adopting, where in terms of the thought process or in terms of technology know-how and the adoption and the viewpoints are quite encouraging and innovative actually. And then the different approaches that each of the countries though very closely knitted, and we just club them as a Middle East in common, but each of the country is taking a different approach, guarded steps to ensure that the journey is safer, better, and a successful one. That's definitely a eye opener here.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you know this quote. You say sometimes they used to say American innovate, Chinese make a copy, European make a regulation about a new technology, right? It seems Middle East is innovating, copying, making regulation. They're doing all in the same time, right? They're taking the best of all approach, and they're just do it. They just act fast. They are catching up. They're leading on some path. No, it's really surprising how vibrant is the community is there.
Correct. Yes, definitely. So I'm already looking forward to a physical event next year actually. So will be a great one to meet the people in person, who are, and by that time hopefully many of the things which are only in idea right now will be in the proof of concept or beyond that by then. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, really looking forward to it. And again, tomorrow, some other places which are important, as you said, aviation, digital transformation, other sectors will be there. The API first strategy, and also the privacy aspect, because the privacy aspect is something that is not enough taken into account. So security and privacy are really related. So I'm glad we finish by that too tomorrow.
Yes, great. Yes, correct. And definitely we had a couple of interesting workshops also from our partners who are enabling us to have keep this session, keep this event, without any registration fee, totally free, right? So yes.
Yeah, and again, also they're doing the work of really showing the use cases, the examples, the stories, the customer stories, the real implementation, and not product pitch and whatever. So yeah, they're playing fair also that to really share knowledge in the community more than anything else. So yeah, we really want to thank them also for that. Yeah, so we see each other tomorrow, right? Tomorrow.
Yes.
Yeah. So tomorrow 9 a.m.
9 a.m. Yes, 9 a.m. Dubai time. Correct.
Dubai time. So you know where it is in your region, depending on where you are, you people listening. Yes. So let's see each other tomorrow. And again, you can. All the videos and slides will be uploaded on SlideShare, or the videos will be available on YouTube. So if you missed the talk, or if you were you had 2 talks you wanted to attend in the same time, in 1 week or 2 weeks maximum, you will have access to everything. So see you tomorrow.
See you.